up, everyone? Welcome back to the Pack Leader Podcast, season number 2, episode number 4. Brian Blanton, how we doing?
Doing great, Coach. Getting ready for an exciting trip this weekend.
Yes, sir. We've been practicing and getting after it for the last 2 weeks. Had a 2-week stint of training. Been on 2-a-days, with the exception of today, since we got back from George Mason, and I think the guys are looking good.
Yeah, kind of refocused. We'll get into the Pembroke duel that led into George Mason. Kind of had some setbacks and some improvements and kind of all over the place there, but really been able to focus in these last couple of weeks and kind of hone in on some things and make some strides.
Yeah, absolutely. As always, you can find the Pack Leader Podcast anywhere you find or stream your podcast, in addition to the Newberry Wolves official wrestling website. Just click on there, and it's pretty easy to navigate too. So if you're not able to watch on YouTube and you want to listen to us on the go because you're super busy, please check us out online. Coach, let's get into this pin pool up.
Yeah, pin pool. We're up to 19 pins so far. Decent little start to the season. John Parker, Devin Rice, a couple other guys, Chance Jackson, Armando Acosta. There's a big jumble up there at the top spot with 2 or 3 each. I'm not sure what it is, but the fastest fall of the year is Fletcher Swindell with 50 seconds. He picked that up at George Mason against Brendan Rettmeyer, and Asa Walton is right on his heels with 51 seconds, and I think they both broke Chance Jackson's 54-second pin that he had at the Cleveland Intercollegiate Open, the Ohio Intercollegiate Open. Yeah. So lots of guys battling for lots of those pin pool leads, whether it's most or fastest. Kind of losing a little bit of steam. Got off to a huge hot start. We mentioned it on the previous podcast. We're up to $287. I think that's only a couple dollars up from what it was last month when we mentioned it.
Or $4. We were at $283 last month.
Right. So losing a little steam. So we really want guys to help us get to our goal of 400. Push that. Help us reach that goal by pledging if you haven't already. If you have. You want to consider upping that pledge a little bit, that'd be great. Pass it along to friends and family. Get everybody involved. Let's make this a group effort and help us all get to that $400 per pin goal.
Yeah, and like Coach said, even if you don't up your pledge, I think if you have supported us by pledging to the pin pool, one of the biggest things you can do to continue helping is to spread the word on social media. Word of mouth is huge. So if you know of family members that haven't pledged, friends that haven't pledged, other parents of wrestlers on our team, please help spread the word. Because like I said, that goal is $400 per pin by the end of the season. And with us only being at 287, we still have some work to do. So still a great deal of the season left. And so we got plenty of time to accomplish that goal, but definitely want to make sure we get the ball rolling in the right direction.
Right, and in order to help spread the word, make it a little easier on yourself, the link is on the bio of our Instagram and our official wrestling website, so you can just kind of get that link and share it to whoever you might have in mind, or just help us blast it out in general, but anything's appreciated and helpful for that.
Awesome. So moving on, I want to give a big congrats to Zachary Shoup and Caleb Spears, who both graduated at our winter commencement last week.
That's right. Spears was not able to make the trip, but we got to see Shoup, and it was funny. We saw all the hats, and then it dropped off significantly before the other regular-sized people walked by. But, congrats to them. That's huge. Spears is kind of off doing his own thing, being an adult, and Shoup's right here still competing for us, but he'll be enrolling in grad school, so Super exciting for him.
Yeah, he just screenshotted me his acceptance email 2 days ago, actually, so he's officially a grad student now. He keeps trying to use the alumni status to get out of some conditioning.
Right.
I told him that's not how it works. So, super proud of him. He's going into our Masters of Science in Organizational Development and Leadership. Actually, let me correct that. He's going into our Masters in Sport Management because that's a new one that we've started. So,
right.
That'll make for 2 grad students we have on the team now with him and also PJ Wonderlick, who's in grad school as well.
And he's in the other one.
Yep, and he's in the development and leadership one. Shoup will be in sport management. So super proud of both of those guys. And like I said, Spears as well for graduating. So moving on, I want to talk about the rankings that came out. We are currently ranked number 7 in the Super Region 2. And we got obviously some work to do coming off of a region championship, Coach.
Yeah, I don't think that ranking is anywhere near indicative of where we are as a team, but it does somewhat reflect some of our performance, and that's both how we wrestled as well as who was wrestling. We get a couple guys potentially back in the lineup this weekend, moving forward into the semester, kind of letting our lineup round out and shape up the way I think that we had originally envisioned, which I don't think this is indicative of at all, but it does kind of show that those guys weren't in the lineup.
Right, absolutely. Like you said, missing some guys in the lineup that will help us jump from 7 to a higher placing, but also in general, I think you got to consider the fact that most of the competition, with the exception of our duels, the 3 tournaments we wrestled at, we haven't seen anybody in our region.
Right, especially the previous the Patriot Open, we were the only D2 school there. So we've been wrestling some stout competition. So our records may not reflect what our D2 Super Region 2 ability level is anyway, and I do kind of think that's something to take into account. At least if the 7th seems aggressively low for you, keep that in mind as well. We got guys whose records aren't probably what they would be if we had wrestled at some of the D2 Open. Heavy opens.
Yeah. And so I'm excited about Midwest coming up, which we'll talk about, but also January too, because we're going to get a lot of these head-to-head matchups with these opponents that are ranked over us. And I definitely think you can look to see us make some strides here in the next month and a half as we go from Midwest into national duels into that conference-heavy competition.
Absolutely.
So looking at the region rankings, I'll just kind of give you guys the top 6 right now. We have Zach Shoup, who is number 6 at 125 pounds. At 133 pounds, we don't have anybody ranked right there. At 104, Josh Blatt comes in at number 3. For people who don't know, Blatt was a 2020 Super Region 2 champ.
Yes.
Actually a transfer to us from Belmont Abbey, but he slid in there to 141 pounds and has a national champ at number 1, who I think you can't really argue
right.
a champ being at number 1, but then one of his former teammates in John Carrianis at Belmont is number 2. Moving on, Devin Moore comes in top 6 as well. He's at number 4 for 149 pounds. At 157 pounds, we don't have anyone ranked, but we do have some depth there as we have to figure some things out with Will Evans, who's a returning All-American, as well as Nolan Wheeler, too. So while we don't have anybody there yet, again, that's one of those weight classes that we were kind of talking about where we look to add some steam there. At 165 pounds, also have PJ Wunderlich ranked number 5. 174, Fields is ranked number 6. 184, they don't have Zabrandon Gant in the lineup right now, but he is returning a former All-American and 3-time Super Region champ.
Yeah, 3-time Super Region champ, 3-time NCAA qualifier, and like you said, 2020 All-American. So. Yeah. Solid guy to get back in the lineup.
Oh, yeah. Awesome. Definitely a solid guy. And then also Chris Walton, who we'll talk about his first performance on the mat at George Mason, isn't ranked at 197 pounds, but he'll be most likely he's still got to have a wrestle off, so potentially our guy there. But on paper, he's the guy that is on there right now, but he's just not ranked. And then at heavyweight, Devin Rice comes in at number 2 under Juan Holmes.
And just kind of backtrack with the Chris Walton lack of ranking, it is a little odd because he was in the initial rankings pretty high, 1, I think, if I'm not mistaken. So I think it may be the lack of competition because he was playing football in those early events is probably kind of why he slid out. John Parker, who's had a really good season so far, was getting the reps at 197 for us, but I guess just having less on his resume, and them not being sure who's going to be the guy, that's sort of what I would attribute that to with the sliding out of the rankings at 97, because both those guys have had, John Parker a little bit larger body of work, Chris only the one event, but both solid bodies of work so far.
Yeah, I mean, shoot, John took, 3rd at the Ohio tournament that we went to. And yeah, has a really solid record too. So, and I do think it's interesting that while Chris isn't ranked in the region, the open mat has him ranked at number 14th in the country. So, do with that what you will. But obviously, somebody out there doing rankings has been studying his body of work and see something there. So, you can look forward to us, just like me and Coach are looking to move up in those rankings. Just stay tuned because, like I said, I really do feel like we're going to hit a stride here coming up in the next couple of weeks.
Oh, absolutely. And speaking of hitting the stride, we put everything out for our camps. So our camps are coming up this summer. You can find NewberryWrestlingCamps.com has all the information. They will be condensed like we did this last year to one solid week. I think it helps everybody clear the schedule and make time when they're not worried about tough on top camps this week and they're coming back for duels 2 weeks later or something like that, help you schedule vacations and that sort of thing. But it'll be the week of June 17th through June 23rd. So about a half a week to a week slid up from last year. Gym availability and feedback from campers and coaches last year sort of facilitated shifting it slightly earlier, but hopefully that leaves you a little bit more summer on the back end to go enjoy some vacation. But those camps will be tough on top, takedown, elite, and the summer duels, and we'll have beginner sessions or a beginner group sort of at each one as well. So lots of options, lots of ways to come get better, come train with us, and we look forward to seeing any and all of you all with high school and middle school age kids. Send them on or younger. We've had some
little tykes out there.
Yeah.
What's old buddy's name that runs around?
Oh man, yeah, we shouted him out. Oh man, drawing a brain fart.
I can't think of it either, but you know what I'm talking
about.
Yeah. But he's always around here. And some of the feedback we got last year was that for some of those younger kids, Trip. Yep. Shout out to Trip. What is he? Probably like 5 or 6.
Yeah.
He's wide open always. But he's a pleasure to have. And a lot of those little tykes too. But one thing we're gonna do to kind of, I guess, implement some of the feedback we got is have a simultaneous session for beginners and youth running at the same time. So one of the counselors or camp staff will take that group to a separate mat so that they're learning and getting some instruction that's more tailored to their skill level. And we can, kind of move some things along for the advanced guys on another mat.
Right. Because so we always kind of walk the line where the beginners aren't quite where we're at, but we're maybe holding some of the advanced guys back to try to not leave the beginners behind. And it's, again, just taking that feedback and applying it in a way that I think is going to help benefit everyone.
Yep. And another adjustment that we will make to upgrade the duels this year is to run them on track wrestling and have them streamed on Flow. So if you're a parent at home and you want to watch your son or daughter wrestle in the duels, you can do that from the comfort of your home. But also the results will be kept in real time on track as opposed to the paper situation that we did last year. So, again, just trying to upgrade things and make it a little bit better. But like Coach said, June 17th through the 23rd, mark your calendars. All that information is on our official website and social media as well, so please go check it out. And now I want to jump into the competition recap. You kind of mentioned it in passing, Coach. UNC Pembroke. Let's talk about that one.
Yeah, wasn't our best look. No. We were pretty high coming out of Belmont Abbey. Mm-hmm. Wrestled really well, had made some improvements, and then went to Pembroke, and I think just stayed on the bus is what it felt like.
Yeah, and I mean, to put it plainly, I think they handed it to us, man. I mean, we won 2 out of the 10 bouts, which is super disappointing. And, while a lot of those bouts were close, and the 8 that we did lose, it's still 8 bouts that we lost. And it's unfortunate because I definitely think we're the more talented team. I just think they came to wrestle, and I think they out-wrestled us. I don't think they out-skilled us, but I think they out-wrestled us that day.
Yeah, I think it's something we were preaching to the guys. We do think we're better wrestlers, but they showed that they're definitely tougher. They were a lot tougher that night. But like you mentioned, those 8 bouts that we lost, the majority of them were really tight. I think at least 3 or 4 of those, not only did we have a chance to win, but we were winning at one point, or could have, lost the late one that if we'd gotten that last takedown, we would have won. Situations where I felt like we should have won at least half of the ones we lost as well. So, one that sticks out in my mind is 165. Asa Walton was winning that and just, gave up that last late takedown that sealed it for Pembroke, and kind of back-to-back right there with 74 was similar as well. But when you got guys winning a match for, 6 of the 7 minutes, it's frustrating when you lose that one. But the disappointing thing for me in that one was it seemed like we backslid a little bit. We had been making some progress from the opens that we saw at Belmont, and then it felt like we stepped back a little bit, and that was really where the disappointment was. It wasn't necessarily, the performance. I would have liked to see our guys fight a little bit more because they were certainly taking it to us, and it was kind of like you get punched in the mouth, you got to be able to punch back, and we weren't doing that, which I think why we lost some of those close ones. But the backsliding of some of the things we had made so much progress on was where I was disappointed.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, like you mentioned, Asa, that's a 5. He lost that match 5-4. And losing sucks, but it does give you an opportunity to address some of the things that you need to address to continue to improve, right? And so the conversation we had with him was like, you don't lose a match 5-4 if you're looking to continue to build your lead instead of holding on. And so I think that's a valuable lesson he learned. And with him being our starter at 65 going out to Midwest, that's an adjustment we look to see him make.
Absolutely. And speaking of making those adjustments, going into I don't want to get too far ahead of ourselves, but going into the Patriot Open, even the guys whose record at the Open didn't seem very successful, we had a couple guys go 0-2 or whatever, but even in certain losses, we looked good, especially in areas and situations that we're making a point to work on and improve on with those specific individuals. So that was good to see as well.
Yeah, definitely. And then just because we're talking about some of those bouts that were close, another one was at 197 pounds. John Parker dropped a really close one to that kid, 8-7. To Garrett Steele is his name, who I want to say, I'm gonna look it up real quick. He might be ranked number 1 at 97 right now. Number 2.
I was gonna say, I know he's up there.
Yeah, he's ranked number 2 in the region right now. And we lose a close bout to him, by a point. Because we can't move our feet.
Right. Apart from not moving our foot when he shot at 5 times.
The same shot.
The same exact shot. All other positions, I feel like we vastly out-wrestled him. But when you give up 2 points in batches of 8, that'll catch up to you real quick.
Right. So, and again, that's something that we saw him improve on at George Mason. And it's still super early. You hate to run into an opponent like UNC Pembroke in November because you need to be on your P's and Q's to compete with that caliber of a team. But at the end of the day, it's not an excuse, but it is early, and we are excited to make some of these adjustments moving forward and to get that look before when it really matters. We lost to them here, and so there are some conference kind of things you got to keep in mind in terms of wanting to win a conference. But, one of the things that me and you talked about, they still got to get through a really tough Lander team. So that ship has not sailed yet. And we still have to wrestle a really tough Lander team as well, which I'm fully up for the challenge.
Right. And, as bad as a 30-9 loss looks on paper, we did have some guys look good. Fletcher got bumped up arguably 2 weight classes because the week before he had competed for us at 125. Had a talk with him. Made that adjustment that he's a 33-pounder, and then bumped him up to 41, and he went out and got a big win by fall for us to kind of stop some bleeding,
right.
And an attempt to get the the ball rolling in our favor, get a little momentum going. Didn't really happen, although, like I said, we were in a lot of those matches. But he looked good. Devin Rice, as usual, looked really solid. And again, a lot of those guys in the middle, if they didn't look good for the whole match, they at least had bright moments, or they, like Asa looked good for 6 out of the 7 minutes,
right.
That sort of thing. But, Devin Rice and Fletcher were definitely bright spots. We had a couple of exhibition matches that were solid.
Yeah, Des Marshall pinned Christopher Dickey in 2 minutes and 58 seconds. So he, I think he hit him in that elevator situation. Yep. So that was fun. And then even Chance, he lost, but he battled. He lost 5-2. I think his shoulder came out. He's actually a season-ending injury.
Yeah, he tried to throw, and when you got 600 pounds going to the ground at one time, injuries, might happen. And his shoulder, he's been battling that shoulder all season anyway, and yeah, that was sort of the final straw for that. But he looked good up to that moment.
Yeah, he did. And wishing him a speedy recovery, too. I know he's back home and has to get surgery and all that. So, Chance, we're thinking about you, man. I'm excited to get you back in the room. But, yeah, so that was a disappointing loss at Pembroke. But like we kind of alluded to a couple times now, George Mason was a breath of fresh air. Even though we were the only Division II team there out of the 16 teams, it was still, we knew we had our work cut out for us, but we were still able to bring back 2 placers. Chris Walton took 4th, and Devin Rice took 5th.
Yep. I think
6th, excuse me, I'm sorry.
We were the day before we left, we were kind of like, "Who do we really want to go?" It was a decision. We were dealing with all kinds of hiccups in the situation. It was almost one of those like, "Is this the universe's sign telling us not to go?" But no, it turned out to be a really good thing that we went. Like I said, we saw a lot of improvements from certain guys in a lot of those key positions, which I think is huge. You can see a guy wrestle not so great and then see him wrestle a little better and just kind of take a general improvement as a positive. But when it's specific things that have been a weakness and then they're no longer a weakness, or they turn into a strength, that's where you see those big strides being made. And that's what I think we saw a lot of at George Mason. Yeah. And it wasn't the same. It wasn't a common theme. Each guy kind of had his own individual things, but we saw so many of those guys making those improvements, which was, really positive to see.
Yeah, and I think it was good to get Chris. I mean, that not to say he was the main reason we won, but it was important for guys like Chris to go and get some reps because he hadn't stepped on the mat since, March.
Right.
It was literally his first tournament. And just see what he was working with. I mean, he knocked off a kid from Lock Haven. He knocked off another Division I opponent. I can't remember where he's from. But even in the semifinals match that he lost to the George Mason kid, we were absolutely in that match. You know what I mean? And again, in that the match for 3rd and 4th, I forget the kid he wrestled. It was was it a George Mason starter or Gardner Webb starter?
I think it was the Gardner Webb guy.
It was a Gardner Webb starter, but in that match as well, he has a lot of exciting tools to work with. So I'm glad he's on in the lineup and a lot of promising things. And some of those other guys that you mentioned that wrestled really well, I'm thinking about Devin Moore, who knocked off a really tough kid from Navy. Nolan Wheeler had some really impressive wins. Shoop was one of those guys you talked about where even though his record didn't necessarily reflect the improvements that were made, if you were standing Matt's side, you could see some of the things that we've been talking about and working on coming along. So
absolutely
super proud of those guys.
And Devin Rice was knocking off guys that when he walked out to shake hands, and we're sitting there going, "Phew,"
Yeah.
This guy looks big and athletic. And then Rice would, find a way to win. And we talk about all the time, winning's a skill. And so guys who find ways to win, that's huge. And, Rice did a lot of it that day. I think Armando had 2 pins at that tournament. So, not only did he have a good day, but he also helped out the pin pool a little bit.
Shout out to that.
But, tons of improvements in little things that, again, it was refreshing to see, especially – when we had trended that way and then had the setback at Pembroke. It was nice to say, okay, this is our trajectory. This is our, habit. Losing to Pembroke by 21 points isn't the habit.
Yeah. And what I'm excited about is the fact that going into Midwest, we have not been in any tournaments that we haven't seen competition that difficult. You know what I mean? Like,
right.
We're definitely prepared from a look perspective. Every tournament we've been at, I would say, has been as tough from that Division I aspect as Midwest will be.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. We wrestled 3, not only Division I heavy opens, but primarily almost 100% D1 opens with it was Southeast Open it used to be called the Hokie Opens, Virginia Tech, and then the second one was the Ohio Intercollegiate Open. That did have a few D2s in there, but it was still very D1 heavy. And then the almost 100%, apart from us, 100% D1 Patriot Open at George Mason. So stepping back into some D2. Exclusive D2 competition, or there's usually a couple NAIs and D3s.
I actually think a couple of years ago they made it strictly.
Okay, so stepping back into strictly D2 competition, I think is going to be a breath of fresh air for some of our guys.
Right. Now, we say that, but to just kind of jump into the preview for Midwest, I do want to point out that there's going to be 46 teams there, and 5 guys in the tournament out of the 10 weight classes that are wrestling are ranked number 1 in their respective weight classes. So definitely loaded field. Zeth Brower, obviously ranked number 1 at 41 pounds, will be there. Ely, who defeated Isaiah Arroyo at Nationals last year, for 3rd and 4th, is ranked number 1 at 149 pounds right there. He'll be there.
Johnstown
57-pounder. Right? What's that?
UPJ kid?
Yep, the UPJ kid.
Yeah, stuff.
Irma Silo, I'm pretty sure I'm butchering your name, so I apologize. But anyway, at 157 pounds, he's ranked number 1. Gantz from Wisconsin Parkside at 165, and then Abney at 197 from Central Oklahoma. So some loaded weight classes with top competition. Also, 6 wrestlers in the field won a Midwest Classic title last season and are returning. So actually, we have a head-to-head. Well, we had one with Kerrigan. Mayha's back. He's currently ranked number 10 at 125. He'll be in the tournament. Metzigar at 33 from Colorado Mesa. Means from Gannon University. Again, Gantz, who we mentioned. But also Ian Kuehl at heavyweight, who we do have a win over from that duel with McKendree last year.
Rice pulled out a big one to not only knock off the number 2 kid in the country, but sealed the duel for us. So that was huge.
Right, so a win over him. Just want to point out the fact also that he still isn't ranked, even though we do have some quality head-to-head wins over those
including one over Juan Holmes, who's ranked ahead of us in the region.
Right, but anyway, that's why I'm excited about this weekend, because it's going to give us an opportunity to kind of show where we are. So he goes out there and look at his body of work. He's been placing at the tournaments we've been at, placed at Cleveland, placed at George Mason. So if he goes out and stays consistent, he definitely has the opportunity to crack into those rankings. One other thing I wanted to point out too, we talked about how 6 wrestlers are returning and the 5 that have won it. I mentioned that 46 of the wrestlers, or 46 of the Division II teams will be out there as well. And it's a Saturday-Sunday tournament. So wrestling will start at 10 a.m. on Saturday, and they usually bump it back to 9, and we get out of there a little bit earlier on Sunday. So you can tune in, follow them on Twitter. Jackie Paquette, who's just a great advocate for the sport of wrestling, a good friend of Blanton and ours. She does an awesome job providing coverage for that event. So literally just type in UND on Twitter, and you can keep up to date with all the stats and whatnot.
And like you said, they keep up. They do a good job keeping up on Twitter, but they're also leading up to it. There's some of the information that we're giving you guys today was pulled right off that Twitter account leading up to that event. They're posting. There's you said 6 returning champs. There's actually 7. 6 from last year. There's a previous one who won it a few years ago. Either I don't even know who it is because it was like a mystery. but there's an additional one that won it. I don't know if he didn't compete or if he just hasn't won it in the last couple of years, but
oh yeah, it says bonus points to anyone who can name a seventh wrestler competing this weekend who has a title under his belt from 2019.
So I don't even know who it would be. But, again, follow UND. Actually, it's just Midwest Classic, right, on Twitter. But lots of fun information, and to kind of prep yourself going into it, follow that a little bit and read up on some of those facts.
Yeah, absolutely. So, excited for that one. I've said it a couple times, and I'll mention it one last time. I'm confident you can look for Newberry Wrestling to make strides here. Guys are looking sharp. We're healthy for the most part. Knock on some wood there because we do got one more practice to get through. But, yeah, we're firing on all cylinders right now, and just mentally we're locked in, I can tell, too. So I'm excited to hit the road and go show what we're about so that we can continue going in the right direction, Coach.
Yep, and speaking of heading in the right direction, we're about to head over to this interview with Seiji, teammates with both of us. One of your training partners, who's a little too small for me. Massive hands, though, like baseball gloves. But Seiji's a good dude, fun time. Enjoy this.
Yeah, it was a good interview. Excited for you guys to listen. Here we go, Seiji Borja. All right, everybody. We are here with Seiji Borja. I call him Little Guy. We were teammates back in the day. I always like to give him a hard time, but we were training partners. Somebody I respect and look up to, and is crushing it right now in a professional life. So, Seiji, what's up?
Hey, what's going on, guys?
Welcome to the show, dude.
I appreciate you.
Appreciate you making time to be on. What are you up to these days?
So right now, living with the family in Charlotte, North Carolina. And so right after school, I graduated with my nursing degree and was an emergency room nurse up at Lexington Medical Center. And then moved to Charlotte and was an ER nurse for about 6 years up here. And now I'm in the nurse practitioner role. I'm in family medicine now, so just kind of in between patients at lunch. So decided to bless you guys with an interview.
Nice. Well, we appreciate that, man. Thank you.
For sure.
So yeah, you were a nursing major. And what year did you graduate again?
2015.
Okay, 2015. And I guess I know we've always kind of kept in touch over the years, but talk a little bit about what made you want to go from being, in the nursing field to nurse practitioner, because I know you were doing it and weren't feeling a part of the job for a little bit and then wanted to change over and go a different direction.
Yeah, I think I've always wanted to, I always thought that, just nursing was a stepping stone. And I always kind of figured that I'd be in this role. It was just more of a time to kind of move on and transition. So nothing really about the job, I would say, just, kind of ready to just kind of move on, kind of past that part of my life. So,
yeah. What's your day-to-day like? Like, what's your, I guess, I know it's not 9 to 5, but like, what's your schedule?
So, typically I'll come in, 6:50 or so, kind of clear out my inbox. Got, patients asking, questions and stuff. And then, I'll see patients from, 7 till noon, have a lunch break, and then, 1 to 4. So, I was doing right out of school, I was doing urgent care. So it gives me a better schedule and kind of a lot more consistency, which is nice. So,
yeah, definitely. And you're all done with school now?
Yep. All done.
Nice.
So you talked about how you kind of thought that was a stepping stone, like your first part of the nursing thing. Is this sort of the end goal? Just kind of build from here, or is there another step kind of past?
I would say as far as like education wise, but it's as when you have kids and a family, things change, and so the flexibility that I have right now while my son's young is super nice. But as things change, as far as specialty wise, it could change, but as far as kind of education wise, I would say this is probably the end goal for me. So
nice.
Awesome. And for a lot of people who aren't familiar with you or don't know, you do have a son, one kid, Brooks. How old is Brooks now?
19 months.
19 months. Nice. Approaching that 2-year mark, huh?
Yeah, he's advanced. He hit terrible twos maybe 5 months ago. So
nice. Well, I'm sure Glenn's got some advice for you.
Yeah.
I always
Yeah,
give him a hard time.
stop there while you're ahead.
Yeah, yeah. I'll stop. One and done. One's enough.
Do you and Jen, your wife, do y'all want more kids or not? Or still thinking about it?
No, I think, like we were discussing. I mean, if you're, having $50 fades, I mean, you can't afford more than one.
Yeah, this is always going to keep the hair fresh. I like it. Yeah, and kids are expensive. I don't know how Blanton has 10.
Yeah, I don't know. Blanton. That's why Blanton's smaller than when he was in college. He ain't eat.
He's got to feed the army, man.
Yeah, exactly.
No, but let's kind of talk wrestling a little bit. So, you're South Carolina, not a native of South Carolina originally, right? You're from Virginia originally.
So I was born in Virginia, but I would say kind of my wrestling kind of journey started in Louisville, Kentucky. So I would say the youth program is a lot more, I guess, kid friendly with sports and schools and stuff like that. So I've been wrestling since I was 7. Our elementary school had an organized team on top of some of the takedown clubs. So a lot different than I would say South Carolina. But when people ask, I tell them I'm from Charleston. So
right. So when did you move to that Charleston area?
So I moved when 6th grade, so I guess 12. And for the listeners out there, I started out as a Somerville wrestler. I used to watch Blanton practice when I was a young buck, and then moved to the Fort Dorchester kind of middle school area, and so started out at Oak Brook Middle School as far as wrestling goes. So
you're kind of a traitor, huh?
A little bit, yeah. I mean, I was an OG Somerville kid before. I wrestled with Aaron Hansen and Eli and all those guys. So
yep, those are some dogs, man. And for people who don't know, it's funny because my first job out of college was at Oak Brook Elementary, where you went. I taught there, and then I also coached at Fort Dorchester High School. So obviously, I got a little bit of allegiance there. And one of our alumni, Andrew Young, he's actually coaching there now, and he took over like right after I left. So it's kind of been a Newberry grad there for a long time now.
Oh yeah, and then Nick Young, who's another Newberry grad, he's there too. So.
Yeah, and they're killing it, man. So yeah, and you had a great high school career. I think you're a 3-time state champ, right?
Yep. So we were supposed to
would have been 4 if you fit Somerville.
Yeah, we were at the same weight a couple times. Ducked me a little bit, but
nah, I ain't never ducked you.
Yeah, so I wanted at 130. 140. No, I wanted at. Can't even remember now. 140, 152.
That sounds right. I can't remember if you were bigger. If I don't think I ever wrestled higher than you. I think I stopped at 45. So yeah, 52 sounds right.
Yeah. So, yeah, and then wrestled one of Blanton's teammates my freshman year, but kind of had the freshman shakes a little bit. Big goose egg.
Who was that?
Somerville will do that to you.
Van Collins. Yeah, I think he placed 3rd my freshman year. So
okay, gotcha. And so went through, got those 3. You shook it off and got the 3 state titles after that. Obviously one of the better wrestlers at your senior year in the state. What attracted you to Newberry from the 4D area?
I guess it's kind of funny, and again, a lot of people might not know the whole Valak era and kind of the recruitment process and kind of the culture that kind of bred. But I think a lot of kids think that they're a lot better than what they are, especially maybe in South Carolina. When you're coming off of like a 3-time state champ and you're nationally ranked and you're doing all these things, especially if your family has no kind of background in sports or, even going to college, you think that you kind of, deserve, football D1, money. And it just doesn't happen like that, especially when you're getting recruited. And so really thought I wanted to go D1, and really kind of figuring out, the D1s that, that are kind of, known for, wrestling powerhouses or something that just at the time I just wasn't, good enough. And then, D1 AA, I would say, just from my experience, they just weren't as good as Newberry. And, I wanted to win. And, I think that year that I was getting recruited, I think it was, you guys were there. I think you guys beat Maryland or North Carolina or NC State or all of them or something like that. And so, knowing that we were, contending for a national title every single year, that's just something I wanted to be a part of.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, it's one of the things that attracted me to Newberry as well. Going D1 is great and all, but at the end of the day, I think what you value most from your experience in college is winning, whether that was at a Division I school or whether that was at a Division II school, D3, JUCO, whatever. You're going to value those championships a lot more than just saying, oh, I went to, I'm not even going to name a D1 school, but just I went to this D1 school for the sake of saying I went D1. So, and it's an interesting conversation I have with a lot of recruits as well, because we try to recruit high level talent, that has that, similar to you and Blanton, and a lot of guys on our roster could definitely go Division I. But the question I always ask them is like, is Division I a good fit? Are you saying you want to go there because it's a good fit outside of the wrestling piece, financially, socially, all that stuff? Or are you saying you want to go there just because you want to have that kind of clout with your friends and that whole thing? So
yeah, and I think too is that, coaches and parents might do kids a disservice, kind of, boosting their head up a little bit, kind of really figuring out, whether, you can really contend. Because, I don't know if you guys would agree, but, losing's losing. It don't matter if you lost to a D1 guy or a D3 guy. Losing sucks. And, if you're, I think you really need to, a real kind of disservice for, kids, maybe freshmen, coming in, is not really being honest with themselves. If you're just getting there, just, be on a team, then, I'm sure, you guys know how many kids that, I don't know too many Newberry grads, kind of in that era that we were in, that were, 4-year, 5-year, Newberry, 100% graduates. So, you gotta, wrestling's not fun, unless you're competing. I would say my junior year and your senior year, we were cutting the most weight. Like, it's not fun. The fun part, like, practice isn't fun. Like, the fun part is wrestling and winning, and if you're, and that's only 1% of wrestling, and if you're not winning, then, why be miserable?
It's funny you say that, because I'm looking for it. I saw this quote that one of our wrestlers put up, just talking about wrestling being hard. And he said, I'm going to read it if I can find it. I think Dre shared it, if it's on my story still. But it was basically this guy just talking about how, he didn't get into wrestling because it was easy. He actually got into it because it was hard.
Oh, yeah, I saw that one. It was Neil deGrasse Tyson. Like,
yeah,
the smartest dude on earth, arguably.
Right.
Like, he actually wrestled at Harvard. He was the captain of his high school team, went to Harvard, studied physics. He's an astrophysicist and cosmologist and all that kind of stuff. And like, super highly renowned dude. He talks about wrestling, like what Coach was just saying. Like, you don't do it because it's easy or fun. You do it because it's hard, it's a challenge, and it's rewarding in that way. So definitely kind of cool to see somebody with that sort of, like you were talking a minute ago about clout. Like, Neil deGrasse Tyson's got clout, in my opinion. So, to see somebody with that kind of clout, speaking positively about wrestling was cool.
Yeah, no, that was super cool. That's why I reshared it to our story when I saw that guy posted. But yeah, so you came to Newberry and you had a great career. I'm pretty sure you broke 100 wins, right?
Yeah, so I don't know. I don't know how many of us are in the club, but I know it's a short list. I know
Yeah.
we got three of them right here. So
Yeah. So broke the 100 win club, and it was always good to have. I'm a big believer that iron sharpens iron. So having you and BJ around my weight to train with, I definitely attribute a lot of the success I was able to have because I was able to train with you guys. But kind of talk to me a little bit about your experience here. I guess just some takeaways that you had from the process of being on the team, and going through the process of making weight, competing, being one of the guys that was a valuable contributor to the lineup, even after I left. Just kind of talk about things, your takeaways and things you learned.
yeah, yeah. So I would say one, we touched on this too, is that I mean you got to love it. Like if I had another year of eligibility, like if you guys feel like, hey man, everybody gets a COVID year, I'd be back and I would wrestle 49. Like I enjoyed it that much. And not always, while you're doing it, but again, I mean, dude, college is fun. Like, and it's too short to not have your heart in it, and so I think one of I wouldn't say regrets, but I would say kind of one of, the I would say a role model that I think everybody looks at. While he's a pain in the butt, but DJ or BJ, I don't think anybody would say that wrestling wasn't his only priority. And I think that when you start to kind of fracture a little bit and you're trying to be a good student and you're trying to party and you're trying to enjoy college and you're trying to be a wrestler, there's that's a unicorn. Like they really don't exist for you to be like that. And so I would say one is your heart just has to be it just has to be in it. And I would say kind of for my journey, and I don't know how with all this transfer portal and stuff, but like I was talking to a patient the other day. It's almost, it feels almost like giving up. Like I was when I came in, I was like sixth on the totem pole. I mean, I had a bunch of in my freshman year, I had a bunch of hammers. I think Udero were contemplating on going 49 that my freshman year and decided to go 41. And I mean, Dale Doback, who was, I think, maybe a national champ in JUCO or something like that.
He's an All-American, I know, at least, right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
at least two-timer.
yeah, a couple time All-American. So he was at my weight, and a couple other hammers. So I was like six on the totem pole, and I just, kind of going in as a three-timer. It's super humbling when you're getting. I mean, I don't think I got a takedown until maybe December. And so it's super humbling, and really just kind of have that mindset. And thankfully, I was actually able to break the lineup all the way into like the week before regions, and had a really good chance to qualify. I ended up placing fifth my true freshman year when being down from the sixth person on the lineup to kind of showing out, and ended up earning the spot after a couple mishaps from other people, and was able to contribute to that super region win, which was really cool. And then kind of just going back at it, I was a couple time region placer. Unfortunately, wasn't able to crack that qualifying. Beat tons of All-Americans and qualifiers and all that, but like I said, just going back to it, you got to be almost like an all or nothing, because you got to get those workouts, those extra workouts in. And towards, I would say, my junior and senior year, I wasn't practicing to get better, and I wasn't getting extra workouts to get better. I was doing those things to cut weight, and so I think that and you guys know that the season's just so long. And so when you're doing that to your body, when you're not practicing to get better, but just to, make the weight, I think ultimately that kind of hurt me, in the long run. So.
Yeah. And I mean, at the end of the day, I know your goal was to qualify and win a national championship, but like I said, A, you did have a great experience here, and you were one of the better guys to come through the program, and B, I think you still, as you move on into the next chapter of your life, maybe not. Can you talk about what perspective you have on, not accomplishing the goals you might have had while you were here, and maybe kind of how that's driven you to do other things in your life, or just what your whole perspective and takeaways on those things.
Yeah, I don't know how you guys kind of felt going into the real world. I don't know if it was something that was a little easier maybe since you guys were, continuing coaching. But I mean, I would say like college is almost like a bubble, and like wrestling is like a bubble to where like being kind of like a douchebag can kind of, help you in that kind of way. When you're wrestling, because you're kind of, you need to be tough, and you kind of,
Well, yeah, you need that edge.
yeah, another guy's trying to essentially fight you, across from you. So I think, just kind of looking back in like hindsight 2020, kind of, I felt like maybe it was a little difficult to transition to that point, as far as like, not necessarily being friendly, but, just kind of, not, having that edge, I would say. And then, as far as, I wouldn't say that it's drove me as far as not accomplishing all my goals. I think, failure is just a part of life, unfortunately. And so you kind of, need to take the good with the bad, and so, well, I didn't accomplish what I wanted to accomplish, breaking the 100 wins, I think that's pretty, that's a pretty big deal. And, having your name, kind of cemented in Newberry history as far as like, a placer, and, us getting second, in nationals our junior year. And, a lot of that, I would say is, not as good, but I mean, it's nice to be a part of. But I would say more so, just how difficult wrestling is, I think put me in a different mindset of, being able to, really kind of just get past some of the tough, like live in kind of the grind, live in kind of that uncomfortable place, and, kind of come out on top. I'm, one of Alex crazy, mantras or whatever he would say, but, really just kind of, being able to kind of, and how long you can be uncomfortable, I would say, is kind of brought me to this level. Because, the degree that I have is, it's difficult, and, it comes with late nights, and failure, and trial and error, and learning. So I would say that that's more so the mindset of wrestling rather than kind of, failures, I would say.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, I think that, like you said, that mindset can apply to many areas in your life. I kind of want to talk about, you hit on it, your degree. A nursing major in general is tough, and I think at Newberry, a nursing major is even harder. I always tell our recruits who want to go into that area that, in my opinion, nursing is probably not necessarily our most popular major, but definitely one of our most rigorous majors, and most difficult. So, can you talk a little bit about how you were able to, and you did it at a very high level? I think I remember at one point you having 4.0. Can you talk about how you were able to balance wrestling with that as well? And we got two guys on the team now that are doing it pretty well too. Nolan and Armando are two nursing majors on our team, but just kind of share your experience on that and how you were able to navigate that.
Not that I would do it over again, but maybe if this was the end goal, then maybe focusing maybe a little bit more, like, and again, like, hindsight is 2020, but I would say, those guys, they're probably learning that. I mean, these majors, nursing and wrestling, they really don't kind of, they don't mix well, I would say. I don't know if we were on the team, but like, it might have been the year after you graduated, but like, I've had to be picked up from the hospital, from clinic, to go to like matches, like, kind of being out of the way, and like just kind of, almost like a run and jump into the van just so I could finish my clinical kind of deal. And then just the amount of studying and I mean, nursing's hard. And just the amount of studying, and that's what kind of I was like alluding to is, getting, you know, you have to get those extra workouts in. And, a lot of times it's, really impossible because you're getting, those extra workout in, you're getting those while you're studying. It's not, that major isn't like C's get degrees kind of deal. So, if you get, I think if you get like 2 C's in the program, you're kicked out. So, it's kind of, they're, kind of common sense, but, you don't want somebody who's, I guess average, taking care of your mom, so to speak. So.
No, I would agree 100%. And it's funny you mentioned that because just shy of going to pick Nolan Armando up, me and Blanton actually thought about doing that because before our Belmont Abbey match, same deal. They had clinicals and we had to bump the time back that we were going to leave, but they came and Scrubs got right on the van. And they even mentioned, like, from a competitive standpoint, like, I think both of them took L's that day, but just not having the mental, I guess, the ability to kind of refresh mentally, like after classes that the normal guy would have, going 6 a.m. or whatever time they got to get up to go to Lexington, to drive and rush back, to get on the van, to rush the weigh-ins, to rush to compete. Like, just that kind of messes with your mental game too,
Yeah, and I would say, like I said, some guys are unicorns like that and can kind of, do that, but I don't know too many of them. And I would say, that's probably one of the tougher majors, just from the standpoint of the outside of the classroom work that you have to do. Is probably why it's, the toughest as far as if you wanted to mix both of them. So.
Right. Well, yeah, man. I mean, kind of just wrapping up here. Talk a little bit about what are some of your favorite experiences. I know wrestling is hard, and we had our fair share of tough practices and tough workouts. But what are some of your more fond memories?
I would say,
if you have any.
Huh? No, man. I would say, it's kind of hard to appreciate, where you were and maybe, again, some of the difficulties while you're in it. But like I said, I mean, I don't know how many people would do it, but I would go back and even back to the Olympic days, I would go back and wrestle. I enjoyed it. I don't know, man. I think maybe just some of the camaraderie we would have. Like when we went to we went on this like, it was like a month trip where we just kind of stopped off, and I don't know, it was crazy. Like we just kind of stopped off and wrestled and at like different places and stayed in hotels, and it was like over the Christmas break, and kind of was
Arizona,
able.
I think, is where we went. We're going out to Arizona for those Grand Canyon duels, I think is what you're talking about.
Yeah, and so that's fun. Just kind of being able to do that with some of the guys. Really, and kind of just like a personal thing. I'm sure your fondest memories is being kind of being able to accomplish that All-American goal. And I don't know if you know this, but like I think third out of all the divisions my junior or senior year in Tex. So that was fun to be a little bit recognized for that. But I would just say the overall experience, I don't think I'd be the same person if I didn't. I'm sure there's so many guys that you guys know that, well, I would have wrestled in college, but I got that butt on them, or I quit after my second year because the coach was mean, or some you got tons of people like that. So I think really just being able to complete it. Again, I don't know how many, out of my graduating class, it was only one person. I don't know how many you guys got, but I think that's pretty remarkable to being able to say, I was there the whole time. So, but I would just say the whole experience. I'm glad I took my redshirt year and was able to enjoy it for 5 years, and being able to experience nationals and be on a big stage and wrestle for a dual national championship. That's all that stuff is a lot of fun. And the relationships that I would say that I've made. I mean, we talk probably once a month, maybe more. I talk to Ravel's. We have a group. We have an Instagram group, and we talk. Through there probably daily, if not weekly. So really all that.
Yeah, absolutely, man. That's kind of my same thing, and I would say the camaraderie is right up there with any kind of like accomplishments on the mat that I would have had as something that I value just as much. Just getting to know the guys in that brotherhood, and everyone that we keep in touch with over the years. So it's
Yeah.
awesome to have you on the show, Blanton. You got any other questions for him, man?
No, I just one thing that always sticks out with Seiji. So he came in that true freshman year. That was my senior year, and like he said, he got kind of thrown into the lineup, thrown at the rules, earned his spot in the lineup, but kind of thrown to the wolves right there before regionals, and went and showed out. But that next year I think was the year you redshirted, if I'm not mistaken, and then a year after that, a couple of years after I had graduated, you're my last teammate that I got to coach. So kind of a cool little way to wrap up, I guess, what was sort of my competition career. With you being a teammate, kind of tied you to that, and then being somebody I had the fortune to coach as well, and being able to work with you in a different capacity was always fun. Out there with those big catcher's mitt hands, tight waist or roll through tilting everybody. Always fun to watch you go out there and get to work. Super proud of you. Had an awesome career, and it looks like you're killing it in the professional world too. So
I appreciate
really
it.
proud of you.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Yeah, I always thought it was fun, and more so like keeping it kind of in the family, so to speak. I had probably not my favorite people, or maybe not my favorite people, but like people that I just didn't know, taking over the Newberry program, and just the fact that you guys are in charge, and kind of keeping that culture, and because I don't know about you guys, but I hold that really kind of that culture that we had, I would say, from my freshman until my redshirt junior year, just because we kind of had a transition phase my senior year, but I kind of hold that near and dear to my heart. And just everybody, any D1 school that we walked into, everybody knew our name, and so I always thought that was really cool, and hopefully you guys remember that, and continue to instill that in them guys. So
Yeah, absolutely. It's something we work hard to do every day. And, obviously we still are kind of going through transitions too, right? Like, I mean, I just got here a little over a year ago, but like you said, the culture that we had when all three of us wrestled here is something that I think is coming back every day. Like, we work with, I'm blessed to work with it. We both are blessed to work with a great group of guys who are coachable, they're learning. And one thing I would like to add too, that we're also trying to, enhance from when me and you wrestled is just that level of turnover. That's not something that I was necessarily proud about. The fact that, when I came in, a lot of the guys that I came into college with, I didn't walk across the stage with, you know what I mean? Like, I think Blanton and I are kind of the mindset to where, like, when you commit to Newberry, we commit to you, and commit to you seeing you through that stage, and I get you're going to lose some people along the way just because it's not for everybody. It's tough, and all those other factors that come into place. But I think one thing that we're trying to do, in addition to making sure that culture is where it needs to be, is making sure that we're doing our job as coaches, and seeing you through the finish line. So I just wanted to add that piece on there too. So
yeah, well, are you guys Queens is not on the schedule, is that right?
nah, nope, they're
Not
not on the
anymore.
schedule because they're going D1 actually. But
Yeah.
next thing we hit the road. We hit the Midwest this coming weekend actually. So that's always a fun one. So we'll hit the
Yeah.
road with that, and UND,
Yeah,
and
that's I don't know how it is now. I just remember when we were in school, they called that kind of like the mini nationals.
still is.
And thankfully I was fortunate enough to place there 3 times. And it's a tough tournament. It's fun. So good luck to you guys, man. Hopefully you guys are in the running to win it as a team. So
Yeah, we had a slow start here this semester, but we got some horses that were in the stable, so to speak, that'll be joining us here. So I'm excited to get out there and actually get into a tournament with some Division II competition, because so far the 3 opens we've been to have been pretty D1 heavy, or heavy as far as other schools in the tournament that aren't in our region. So it's going to be good to get out there and make some noise. We're looking good right now.
Yeah, well, I'm proud of you guys. I'm excited to to continue to keep up with you, and hopefully you guys have some tournaments. I know Belmont Abbey is just a jump skip, but kind of as the years to come, I look forward to watching you guys progress. So
Yes,
good luck.
sir. Appreciate it, man, and thanks for all the
Yeah.
support. We appreciate your support of the program, and definitely look forward to seeing you at a match.
Yeah, man. Tell those guys to keep them pins down. My wallet. I don't want it to get too out of hand here.
Oh yeah, I'll tell them that, but probably not though.
Yeah, we want them to go nuts.
Yep.
Yeah. All right, guys. Well, I'll let y'all later.
All right, man. Take care.
Thanks, Seiji.
All right. Bye.
Welcome back, everyone. That was Seiji Borja. Like you said, what a dude, man. Made that 100 win mark, and that's something we're super proud about. You were actually just talking about the other day how, I mean, if you look up on the wall, we definitely showcase our All-Americans, but that's something that we definitely should do better as a program, showcasing those guys who reached that 100 win milestone, because that's huge.
Right. I mean, you look at guys like Seiji who, he's solid. He's placed at Midwest, which, we've kind of always referred to it as like the little nationals, the national tournament during the season, kind of the preview of nationals, lots of different ways of saying the same thing. It's probably the toughest individual tournament outside of the D1 Opens, but the toughest D2 tournament of the year, in my opinion, and I think that's kind of a consensus opinion. He placed there a couple times, solid wrestler, and just never had the right day, at regionals to make his way to the national tournament and have a chance to, compete to get up on this wall. But guys like that are, part of the backbone of the program. He was here, help sort of pave the way. One of the early-ish, classes to come through, and to be a 4-year starter, to reach the 100-win milestone, and to be a part of our program that's won the regional titles and he placed at the national tournament and done the things that we've done. That all that sort of just I think adds to his resume of what he was as a wrestler and what he meant to the program, and for him to not be on this wall, while at the end of the day he didn't get on the wall, but it also is a little bit of an injustice to him and probably some other guys in that same boat who really were very fundamental in helping Newberry stay at that level. And he competed at a high level for 5 years for us, and he was fun to watch. He was fun to be around. You saw us joking around on the interview, and I don't think it can be understated how talented he was and the type of guy that he was as a teammate and as a competitor. And I think something like the 100-win club would be something to let some of those guys get a little recognition who maybe aren't on the wall, because he certainly is in the 100-win club and he deserves it.
Yeah, 100 wins is a substantial contribution to the program. I guarantee you some of those were some vital ones for team victories, whether it be dual or competition. And to do that while being a nursing major, too, which is arguably the toughest major at Newberry right now. I think he graduated with close to a 4.0. And so not only did he crush it while he's here, he's crushing it in life. He mentioned that he's a PA now, physician's assistant. So continuing to be successful, which is why we had him on the Pack Leader podcast, because he was a leader while he's here, and he's somebody that we can be super proud of while he's living in his adult life. So shout out to Seiji. Appreciate you being on the show, man. So next up, I kind of jumped ahead of myself, and we already kind of previewed a little bit of the Midwest Classic. So we do have that coming up this weekend on December 17th and 18th. But then after Christmas break, we'll go home when we get back, whatever time we get back on Sunday. It'll probably be like, 2 a.m. Monday morning.
Yeah, something late.
But we'll get back Monday. Guys will go home for Christmas break, and then travel day back to campus on the 26th. 27th, we're back to training, and then we wrestle King. Going to go try to get that win back, or stay here and try to get that win back, rather, because it's a home duel on January 3rd.
Right, that'll be a fun time. If you missed our first home duel of the season, definitely come out or tune in. Definitely got some home match enhancements.
Yep.
Bought a couple smoke machines that we were able to showcase last time, work out a couple bugs, hopefully be able to build upon that last one, and more importantly, not building on just the home dual match experience, but build on the home win we had.
Yes.
and add another one to that column as well. Like Coach mentioned, get that one back. They took one from us up there last year they'll be coming to our place this year, and we'll definitely be looking to get that one back.
Oh, absolutely. And then after that, we hit the road very shortly after. Literally, we'll leave on the 5th to go compete at the NWCA National Duels. Always a tough tournament as well. It's invite only, and they usually only invite you if you are, I forget necessarily the criteria, but one of the top placing teams from last year. So our invite is based on the fact that we took 4th at the country at that tournament last season. So we'll go out there, and we're expecting for some more tough competition too. So.
Right, and this is the one where last year we went out and knocked off McKendree, who was like number 5 in the country, and then Upper Iowa was like number 7, and D. Rice actually came through huge on both those to seal it for us. We had guys step up. I remember Will Evans lat dropping old buddy from Upper Iowa again because he had done it the year before at the national tournament. But that's always a fun event where it's different from an individual tournament setting by a lot because you get momentum. Your guys are right there on the bench cheering you on, and you're cheering for them, and it's a lot more. It's a little bit more of an emotional roller coaster, but it's a lot more. I would say electric in terms of wins and losses because you get that big pin that you weren't expecting. Where in a tournament setting it's worth like half a point extra or something. Something silly, but at a duels tournament it's huge. And we were able to knock off 2 highly ranked teams last year, end up coming home with 4th place, and that was a lot of fun. So hopefully we can recreate some of that magic and show what we're about.
Yeah, and we'll have to talk about it one day. But, I mean, I am a fan of the dual national championship, man. I think we have all these conversations about how to make wrestling more of like a fan-friendly sport. I just don't think people want to come sit in the gym for 10 hours, And while right now our NCAA championships, D1s in particular, you don't hear a bad thing about it, being a good experience from the fan perspective. But it just to your point, imagine how much more of an experience it would be if it came down to the dual meet.
Right. If you're a fan of, and I certainly don't mean any disrespect to any program, but I'm trying to think of a team that is successful enough to have a couple guys, but like a North Dakota State or something that's always got a guy or two who's going to do well. But if that's your only 1 or 2 guys and you're a fan there, it's really hard with 8 to 10 mats, to follow. You've got to be, looking at brackets, looking at mat assignments, on your phone on Track Wrestling, just to kind of follow the guy. Even if you got all 10 guys there, it's tough to follow. But just it's a headache trying to keep up with. We do it as coaches, trying to run around and find our guys. But that's from a fan-friendly perspective. It's certainly not conducive to ease of enjoyment. You want it to be easy for your fans to enjoy your sport. But I think a more impactful dual championship, because we're also from South Carolina, where the state championship is settled by duels. Right. So the individual tournament team champion is not the state champion. It's settled by duels here in South Carolina at the high school level, and Coach and I are both from South Carolina, so that's sort of ingrained in us a little bit. But I do think there's some merit to that, and I do think you're able to show up and watch a hour and a half or 2 hour event for the national championship, and it'd be like the football national championship or basketball, probably not quite as big, but the same type of energy, the same type of idea setting, all that stuff.
Yeah, and there's tons of ways you could play around with that if you wanted to do some sort of seeding for your individual tournament based on those results. I mean, you could talk about that all day, but I just that you got me thinking, just talking about how exciting that was. It would be cool to kind of shift that direction, but at the end of the day, it's just a conversation.
Right.
So moving on, just want to wrap up with some general Newberry College news and news about our alumni. I'm proud to say that we have ranked among the best in the SAC based on a recent study put out by the NCAA for our federal graduation rate and our academic success rate. And I'll just kind of take this straight off of our website. It says, while the Newberry College athletic teams are having historic years on the field and in the court, their commitment to the student portion of student athlete continues to shine as the Wolves are ranked among the top in the conference in the latest federal graduation rate, FGR, and academic success rate, ASR, released by the NCAA. So something, obviously, we as coaches are super proud about, coming off of a year where we had 3 academic All-Americans, but also something that our boss, Sean Johnson, the athletic director, is super proud about too. He said, our commitment and goal for Newberry College athletics is to be student-centered, which places an emphasis on academic achievement and graduation. And he said, we are excited about the positive strides we're making and look to continue that improvement. So shout out to not just our wrestlers, but to all of the athletes at Newberry College for continuing that progress in the classroom. That's something we preach as coaches and something that we're super proud of.
Yeah, and one message that's sort of been going around a lot lately, and I think this is indicative of that, is we're not recruiting student athletes, we're recruiting alumni, and that implies that they will be here and graduate. And again, I guess from a development standpoint, or from boosters and wanting to build things, build your program, build an environment that's conducive to winning. Everything's got to improve. So if you're wanting to recruit alumni and you want to do it for those reasons, if they're successful alumni, that's going to be helpful too. So we're trying to recruit the right people who can come here and succeed at Newberry, both in the classroom, on the court, and then go on, finish their degree, graduate, and then go on and be successful in life. Then give us more people for the Pack Leader podcast.
Yeah, absolutely.
But speaking of alumni, we got a couple alumni that we would like to talk about as well.
Yeah. Shout out to Jake Elkins. He just got married last month, so congrats to you, man. And then also we got 2 alumni that are fighting here. Got fights coming up. BJ actually fights tomorrow on December 16th at Hard Rock Casino. I think it's on the social media. I can't remember off the top of my head. But good luck to you, BJ, and your fight coming up. And then Cody Brundage has a fight approaching very soon as well. So always rooting for those guys. All 3 of them have actually been on the podcast, and obviously we still keep close ties on them. I want to also kind of backtrack and say that if you're a follower of everything going on Newberry College as an institution, and you're keeping up with all the capital projects we have going on, the nursing building is making some really great progress. They just started on the interior there, and also the field house. Help me out, Mikey. What was the Founders?
Founders Federal Credit Union.
Yes, Founders Federal Credit Union Fieldhouse. They not only poured the foundation for it, but they also begin framing. So it's exciting to see all that stuff going on.
Yeah, just come around campus and you can. It's nice when you can see the progress taking place. So many of these things that we're talking about, you just hear about them for so long, and then even you put the little fence around and nothing happens. But after so long of staring at nothing, it is really nice to see. Right. Ground being broken, things going up. This lot was flat yesterday, and now there's half a building on it. That's a nice thing to see. So if you're a Newberry alumnus or friend of the program, family member, one of the student athletes, come by, take a little lap around campus, and you'll definitely see some things that look different. We're super happy about that and proud of it.
Absolutely, we're definitely growing and going in the right direction. So thanks everybody for listening. We'll be back next month with our podcast. The guest that we're gonna interview next month is gonna be Chaz McLaughlin. I really struggle with that, but it's going to be Chaz. He was a teammate of both of ours. I can never beat that guy in a race, but
that was the runningest dude we've ever had, I think.
But he's awesome, man. He's been a great supporter of the program and doing some really cool things in his professional life, not only coaching, but competing too. So I'm excited to share his story with you guys next month, but we appreciate you following. Please keep up with us this weekend at Midwest, and we'll be back next month.